Hello and welcome to the Successful Thinking Podcast, where impossible becomes possible. It's time to claim your successful mindset and live your dreams. With your host, Master Certified Life and Success Coach, Dr. Jolene Church.
Welcome back to this week's episode of the Successful Thinking Podcast. I'm Dr. Jolene Church, and I am here to explore with you your inner power to help you break down barriers in your mind and turn what you once thought was impossible into possible. So this week we are going to discuss the transformative power of self-reflection. But before we dive in, I want to pause with you for a moment so that you can ask yourself this question. If I could have a conversation with my future self, now let's say that's 5 years from now, what would I want them to say about the life that I'm living today? Reflect on this question because we're going to explore the exponential impact that self-reflection can have on our personal journey and growth. So before we get started, I want to wish everyone an early happy spring, almost here. It is so close that I can taste it, and we finally have sunshine in Northern California, and I've got my garden in, and although I feel like there is this constant list of yard chores that I need to do, sprinklers have been my menace lately. I've been repairing, and then the list of everything else that just needs to get done keeps getting longer and longer, or I don't know, the sun is impacting my brain and I'm thinking of more things that need to get done. But it's just endless. But I still feel so much more alive when the sun is out. And I know that I'm not the only one because yesterday when I was at my hairdresser's, he was telling me about how his mood is just night and day when we have our dreary rainy months. And then just sitting there as a spectator, seeing this in front of me, his mood shift. He's always really super outgoing, but he was beaming. And there's considerable science behind this as well on how just that simple little sunshine can have a significant impact on our mood and our attitude. And there was a study with I believe it was over 500,000 people that found that for each additional hour spent outdoors in the daylight, it was linked to significantly lower odds of developing major depressive disorders. And this greater exposure of sunshine also reduced antidepressant usages, increased happiness, and lowered neuroticism. So the benefits that are attributed to this are better alignment with our circadian rhythms. So last week we had our time change. We sprang forward, which my husband absolutely hates that we changed the clocks anyway. And I was really off. My body was ready for the time change to lose that hour. But I had a really crazy work week where I was working East Coast hours. And so my rhythm was off. But that sunshine, getting out in the sunshine helped because it helps with your mood regulation and just overall mental health using that exposure to daylight to your advantage. So researchers have also observed that exposure to sunshine can increase the brain's release of serotonin. And this is our mood boosting hormone, and it helps us to feel calm and focused and less anxious. So it's considered this really powerful mood enhancer. And I can tell you that I really felt that this week as the rain went away and the sun came out. I was just in such a good mood. So environmental factors like temperature and rain can really impact our mood, but we don't really think about that a lot. But then those benefits of sunshine, they go way beyond just mood enhancement because we have increased vitamin D, we have stronger bones, we have lower blood pressure, we have improved sleep quality. So sunshine isn't just beneficial for our physical health, but it also plays a crucial role in our mental well-being because we can significantly improve our mood and our attitude. Like I said, I observed with my hairdresser. So I know that I'm early, but happy spring. Get out there and enjoy the sunshine. Hopefully you have sunshine where you are as well. So let me get back on topic. the power of reflection. And I must admit that I really didn't give a lot of thought to reflection, at least the power of reflection, until I entered into my doctoral program. Because then I became in this process at which, it was continually ingrained in me, that self-reflection. It was a part of my daily activities. But before that, I didn't recognize that value in exploring my thoughts or my words or my actions. So like many of you, I might have entered into some light reflective type of thinking, maybe after something went sideways or just completely upside down. But what I'm talking about today is very intentional, and it's a deeply introspective activity and something that can really help us find answers that might be in plain sight, but we're so busy looking at everything else or feeling sorry for ourselves, licking our wounds, whatever, that we look right past that elephant in the room. Other times we might just need to dig in to find the answers. And when I say dig, I mean really get dirty, like I have been doing with the sprinklers all week. There is such great value in digging in. So what exactly is self-reflection anyway? Well, I went to the wiki wizard, Wikipedia, to answer this question. And it says, self-reflection is the capacity of humans to exercise introspection and the willingness to learn about their fundamental nature, purpose, and essence. The capacity of humans to exercise introspection. Remember, every time we work our brains, we're exercising. So the capacity of humans to exercise introspection and the willingness, any change is contingent on our willingness to learn about their fundamental nature, purpose, and essence. And how do we do that? We dig in. So a research study published by Harvard Business Review showed that the habit of reflection can separate extraordinary professionals from mediocre ones. But how does a person sort out which experiences are the most for significant development? So to answer this question, the authors of the study asked 442 executives to reflect on which experiences most advanced their professional development, and then which had the most impact on making them better leaders. 3 distinct themes arose from their analysis: surprise, frustration, and failure. So it was noted that reflection that involves one or more of these sentiments proved to be the most valuable in helping the leaders grow. Well, when we think of surprise, frustration, and failure, they're all in that cognitive, emotional, and behavioral realm. These parts of you are constantly in motion, and if you don't give them time to rest and reflect upon what you learn from them, you're most certainly going to be exhausted. So how were these participants surprised and frustrated, and what about failure was significant? The first, let's start with surprise. This was most commonly related to a state of shock or something completely unexpected. You know how when you plan something and you know it's going to go a certain way that you planned, and then bam, something crazy happens and it's nothing like you would have anticipated. That's the shock factor or the surprise factor. And this arose in these study participants, many of these study participants. Their experiences reflected this fundamental truth. As humans, we tend to naively hypothesize about what will happen next based on what has already occurred. So as a part of our cognitive nature, we use logic and reason to describe, explain, predict, and control in order to project some semblance of power over what goes on in our lives. When we're mistaken, we're surprised or shocked. Makes sense, right? But these mistakes, lapses in judgment, and wrongful assumptions are worth our reflection. Let's think about when you plan something and it takes longer than expected, or the desired results don't come to fruition. Yesterday I was cutting sprinkler pipe and I messed up 4 times before I got it right. I cut the pipe, I put on the little couplings to put it in the repaired spot. I kept doing my math wrong, and I kept doing it wrong, and I was getting frustrated. So it's important to understand that at the root of frustration lies our goals or the objectives of our ambitions and efforts. So I was frustrated because I wanted to get this pipe repaired, and every time I was cutting the pipe and putting on the couplings, I was doing it to the wrong measurement. So goals reflect our values, and our values make up the compass that keeps us connected to our higher purpose in life and at work. We're frustrated when our goals are stalled or stopped in their tracks and we're not able to get what we want. But pushing through that frustration and finding other ways to cope and move forward results in our growth. So I just kept plugging away at the sprinklers until I got it. And then I was very happy to be able to backfill that hole. And then when I turned on the sprinklers and I had no geysers, it was even better. So then finally, the third self-reflection theme, failure. I failed a lot yesterday. I always say fail often, but fail fast. Mistakes allow us to learn through what's called a negative example. We can also call this errorful learning. And much has been written about the value of failure. We've talked about it on the show quite a bit because we really learn best from those failures. So we need to talk about the value of failure as that learning experience because that failure is just temporary. Now, naturally, we can't learn if we don't take the time to stop and intentionally reflect, right? Because I can't just blow past the fact that I just had this failure. What did I do wrong? I measured the pipe incorrectly. There was an article in Psychology Today, and the author pointed out that the clarity that self-reflection brings is worth the discomfort. It's like when we're cleaning out a wound. It might sting initially, but ultimately that sting promotes healing. So at the heart of it, we might begin asking ourselves, how can I make sure this doesn't happen again? I don't want to cut this pipe again. I don't want to glue another set of couplings onto my pipe piece and it be wrong again. In the case of failure, you may find that there's a mistake that you can learn from, right? So we look at what went wrong. And in the case of surprise, you might discover that you need to recalibrate unrealistic expectation. And then in the case of frustration, you may need to figure out what you need to do to get better at adapting to the unexpected. What's key is that we've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And we do this by observing ourselves. Now, this isn't the same thing as staring in the mirror where we can easily change things, right? So I don't like what I see. I've got my shirt's wrinkled. It doesn't fit well. My hair's a mess. Whatever it is, I can change my shirt and I can brush my hair and I can fix it immediately. I'm looking in the mirror. Boom, done. So think about that. You stand in front of the mirror to check your appearance or maybe to practice a speech. And if you don't like what you see, you can change it right there. Looking inside is like standing in front of the mirror, but gaining an understanding of why you're seeing what you see so that you can change the future, not just the present reflection of yourself. Let me say that again. Looking inside is like standing in the mirror, but gaining an understanding of why you see what you see so that you can change the future, not just the present reflection of yourself. That means by observing ourselves, by asking questions that explore our past action or inaction, then maybe we can find that elephant in the room. We can see it all of a sudden. A solution for a better outcome in the future is what we're looking for. Your current self is still standing in the mirror, but by looking beyond the surface and today, we can explore how we got in this present moment and how to shift our future perspective. What were you thinking? What made you think that? What are you thinking now? And what can take you away from that? What did you do? Why did you take that particular course of action? What actions did you not take? What are you doing about that now? What did you learn and how will you apply that? How about what did you say? How did that go over? What are you saying now? All right. So as we continue on this exploration of self-reflection, I have a little tool that we can use to help you harness this power, because this is a really powerful process when you can put your head around how do I take this and use this, right? I asked you these questions. What were you thinking? What did you do? What did you say? But what do I do with that? The what, so what, now what tool is a really simple yet effective framework for self-reflection. And I'm putting a link to this in the show notes so that you can learn more about it. And if you're not taking notes on this, you'll have it in one spot. So I have the link to the site. So first, we explore the what phase. This is where you recount the event or experience. For example, think about a recent challenge that you faced. What happened? Detail the events as objectively as you can without attaching emotions or interpretations just yet. Now, let me give you an example of what this might look like. Imagine you had a disagreement with a colleague at work. During a team meeting, you presented an idea, but your colleague immediately dismisses it. And then that led to a heated discussion. So let's reflect on the specifics. What was said, the reactions from both sides, and the outcome of the meeting. So next we can move on to so what. Here you're going to dive into the significance of the event. What did it mean to you? How did it affect you emotionally, mentally, or even physically? This is where when we say something like, oh, it made me just sick to my stomach, or oh, it made my blood boil. Go ahead and sit with the emotion. We talk about unpleasant emotions and, have a different thought and just move past that. Well, we need to sit in that feeling. We need to appreciate that feeling so we can process it and learn from that. So this phase is crucial for understanding the impact of the experience on your personal or professional growth. So let's build on the last example. So you ask yourself, so what? Now, you felt undermined and frustrated because your idea wasn't given a fair chance. This incident might have affected your confidence and your relationship with that colleague. It could also have implications on how you view your role in the team and your willingness to share ideas in the future. Now, you're going to have to think about why this event was significant to you and what emotions it stirred. Because then we can get into the now what phase. This is where the magic transformation happens. Ask yourself, what will you do differently moving forward? And remember, let's go back to the thought design paradigm. My results are a direct result of my actions. And that all starts with a thought, a narrative I'm telling myself. So as I'm thinking about this event and the feeling that was stirred, there was a thought that I had, a story I was telling myself that drove me into an action, and I now have those results. I want different results, so I'm going to have to do something different. So how can this reflection inform our future actions and decisions? This phase is about turning insight into action for the future. Your now what might look something like this. Perhaps you realize that you need to communicate your ideas more clearly so that you can seek feedback before the meeting. Maybe there's a need for a one-on-one conversation with this colleague so that we can clear up any misunderstandings and get to a more collaborative place in the future. This step's about learning from the experience and planning how to handle similar situations differently. We want, in the end, to ensure our personal growth and better outcomes. So keep in mind that self-reflection isn't about being overly critical, judging yourself, or indulging in self-pity. This is about honesty and constructive self-evaluation. Now, this activity can be a really powerful action item for you this week. And I want you to apply this what, so what, now what tool to a recent event in your life. Now, it could be a conversation that did not go as planned, maybe a project at work, maybe it's a personal goal that's been challenging. Maybe it's a New Year's resolution, right? We're here in March. Are you sticking to that New Year's resolution? Whatever you wanted to achieve, let's think about this life event. Spend about 10 minutes on each phase writing down your thoughts. Now, this exercise is not just about introspection. This is also about actively shaping your future. By understanding the past and the present, you're going to empower yourself to make better choices and foster a growth mindset. So as we wrap up this episode, remember that the barriers in our minds often seem like they're completely insurmountable. And it's only because we haven't yet learned to see them as stepping stones. Self-reflection is really the key to turning these barriers into bridges towards a more successful and fulfilling life. I talk about that in my 6 Steps to Defining Your Purpose book. So let's see how we can take what seems like an insurmountable barrier and bridge from where we are to where we want to be. And I'd like to thank you for joining me on this journey of exploration and growth. I'm Dr. Jolene Church, reminding you to embrace your inner power. And until next time, keep reflecting, keep growing, and keep pushing those boundaries of what you thought was possible. Have a wonderful week. Namaste.